All right, let's dive into one of the most consequential rivalries on the entire planet, the bitter, high-stakes conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And make no mistake, this isn't just some regional squabble. This is a shadow war that shapes everything from the price of gas to the wars that rage across the Middle East. Let's get into it.
So let me start with a question for you. When you think of Iran's number one enemy, who comes to mind? For most of us, I'm guessing one name springs up immediately.
And yeah, that name is usually Israel, but the sources we've looked at for this explainer, they argue that's not really the whole picture. The real defining rivalry that truly shapes the region is actually the one between Iran and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
To really get a handle on what's happening in the modern Middle East, you have to understand the deep animosity between these two regional superpowers. I mean, this is the rivalry that's pulling the strings behind so much of the conflict we see today, and its roots go way back.
The whole story, it really boils down to a single pivotal year. If you want to understand this conflict, you have to understand what happened in 1979. Because it wasn't just a big year, it was a political earthquake that changed absolutely everything.
Look at this. It's a total 180. Before 1979, Iran and Saudi Arabia were actually allies. Both were US-backed monarchies, both major oil exporters. But then, 1979 happens. The Iranian Revolution creates this revolutionary Islamic Republic that basically declares the Saudi monarchy illegitimate. And boom, overnight, two friends become mortal enemies, each one claiming to be the true leader of the Islamic world.
And this rivalry, it's not just about politics. It's way more complicated. It's like a Cold War being fought on 3 different battlegrounds all at the same time: religion, economics, and geopolitics. The first front is religious, and it goes back almost 1,400 years. It all started with a dispute over who should lead the Muslim community after the Prophet Mohammed died. Fast forward to today, and Saudi Arabia sees itself as the leader of the world's Sunni Muslims, while Iran is the dominant power for Shia Muslims.
So while Iran is out there trying to export its Shia revolutionary ideology, Saudi Arabia represents the vast majority of Muslims across the globe. The kingdom's ultimate authority comes from its control over Islam's 2 holiest sites, Mecca and Medina, and that's an authority Iran is absolutely dedicated to undermining.
Okay, the second front, it's all about money. Or, more specifically, oil. Saudi Arabia's entire economy is just overwhelmingly dependent on oil exports. A staggering 75% of the government's entire revenue comes from it. Iran sells oil too, of course, but their economy is more diverse, which leads to these constant clashes over how much to produce and what the global price should be. And that brings us right to the third front, pure geopolitics. Both of these nations are just locked in this struggle to be the dominant power in the Middle East. They are especially focused on controlling the vital shipping lanes, like the Strait of Hormuz, where an incredible 40% of the world's seaborne oil passes through every single day. So you've got this 3-front rivalry, but how does it actually play out on the ground? Well, it plays out through brutal, devastating proxy wars fought across the region, where Saudis and Iranians basically arm and fund opposing sides to fight their battles for them. Take Iraq. After the 2003 U.S. invasion, there was a huge power vacuum. Iran skillfully moved in, supporting the country's Shia majority. Saudi Arabia backed Sunni groups, but Iran was just way more effective. Today, Iran holds significant influence over Baghdad, so round 1 goes to Iran. Then you've got Syria's civil war, and, well, it's pretty much the same story. Iran and its allies gave direct military support to the Assad government. The Saudis, along with the US and Israel, backed various rebel groups. Assad crushed the rebellion. That's another major blow to Saudi ambitions. So that's round 2 to Iran. You can see a pattern emerging here, right? And you can bet Riyadh was getting pretty desperate.
But the war in Yemen, that was different. This wasn't some distant proxy battle. This was happening right on Saudi Arabia's southern border, and it was a direct threat to the kingdom's very survival. See, the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen exposed just how fragile the Saudi economy really is. With relatively cheap drones and missiles, they could strike the kingdom's most valuable assets, its huge oil facilities and the coastal plans that provide nearly all of its fresh water. The Houthis could literally bring the Saudi economy to its knees. Okay, so let's recap. They're losing ground in Iraq, losing ground in Syria, and now they're facing potential economic catastrophe from the war in Yemen. The Saudi leadership realized they needed a new playbook. They needed a new card to play. And they came to a really stark conclusion.
We cannot win this fight by ourselves. Our military just isn't up to the task. So if we're going to defeat Iran, we need a whole new strategy. Get the United States to fight that war for us. And their big opportunity, their opening, came with the Trump administration. The Saudi Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, reportedly built a very, very close relationship with President Trump's son-in-law and Middle East advisor, Jared Kushner. Sources claim MBS even bragged to an associate that Kushner was, quote, in my pocket.
And then, shortly after Kushner left the White House, a Saudi sovereign wealth fund, chaired by MBS himself, invested a staggering $2 billion into Kushner's brand new private equity firm.
So what was the result of all this? What happens when you have this new, super close alignment between the Trump administration and the Saudi kingdom? Well, it led directly to an action that put the entire region on the absolute brink of a major war.
In January 2020, President Trump ordered the drone strike that killed Qasem Soleimani. And you have to understand, Soleimani wasn't just some general. He was the architect of Iran's entire foreign policy, the mastermind behind its proxy wars. He was, arguably, the second most powerful man in the entire country.
You know, previous presidents, both Republican and Democrat, had opportunities to kill Soleimani and refused. They all decided it was just too risky, that it would trigger a full-scale war. Sources suggest the Pentagon presented Trump with 3 options. Basically, a restrained response, their recommended middle ground action, and then the extreme option, assassinating Soleimani. Trump chose the extreme option.
And with that one decision, the United States was pushed onto a direct collision course with Iran. This action, which stunned the U.S. military establishment, was the ultimate fulfillment of Saudi Arabia's new grand strategy, getting America to fight its war for it. And that brings us to today, where this conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran remains the defining fault line of the Middle East. And it leaves us with this one massive question. Has the fate of this incredibly volatile rivalry and the prospect of a catastrophic war now become dependent on the outcome of a single American election?